Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Nat Bros podcast. This is episode 7. We are coming back to you. The reason why I had to say 7 is because I messed up. I was editing episode 3. Oh, no. I was editing episode 5, and I said that we were doing chapter 3 or chapter 5 because it was like 5 and 5. And then I had to go in and edit and be like, no, it's chapter 3. Like, I messed up. But anyway, so this is episode 7, trying to keep track of everything going on. This is my lovely, beautiful co-host, Andrew, my brother, from the same mother. And so I guess technically you say the same father too. Yeah, I mean, so not technically. I don't know why I say technically. But anyway, today we are talking about sovereignty. Chapter 5, which is talking about providing. And so, listen, don't get into the Google Docs and all of a sudden start typing random crap in there, okay? Like, I can see it, okay? I don't need you putting in special, like, wow stuff, okay? So you can just cut that crap out, okay? All right, so anyway, chapter 5, Andrew, provide. Why don't you give us a little synopsis of what chapter 5 talks about?
First off, let's clear something up. The only reason I put that in there, so for one, it's like calm it down, maybe, something like I'm just not correcting you. It looks like we have our proverbial ducks in a row, if you will, but apparently you just don't care to throw it out there. So, wow on that conversation. Jeez.
I mean, if you
all right,
if you're gonna put in little comments, I gotta make a mention about it.
Anyways, so chapter 5, providing. First off, the section says it breaks it down into 3 or 4. Is it 4? I believe 4 different topics that men should do: provide, protect. I don't really recall the second 2 because I really have that short-term memory loss thing going on.
Are you talking about like four sections for provide, or are you talking about the 3 different?
No, 4 sections. Is it 3 different for the chapter 2 or section 2?
Yeah, section 2 is 3. Yeah. So you have protect, provide, and then preside. So yeah. So
okay, that's what it was. So, all right, wrapping that around. All right, so provide financially. Of course, everybody thinks financials is the first and only way to provide, but as this chapter breaks it down, Ryan's typically talking about 4 different ways to provide, 5 different ways to provide. I clearly missed one. So of course, first one's financially. Today's society, you don't really see many one way providing anymore. If you think about it, it's more or less the man and woman provides if there is such a relationship in the household. There's a whole lot of mothers providing by themselves financially, and there's also a whole bunch of, fathers providing financially and the mom stays home still. And that's typical for what we're used to in society these days. Of course, like I said, times change. Mothers go out of the house. Fathers stay home nowadays. Both are out of the house working because you need more money inflow. But yeah, that's not all it is. That's not all it talks about. There's also like providing mental stabilization, if you will, like how you handle difficult situations, more often than not, if you're in a typical, let's just say if you're in a relationship, you look towards the man to like be that rock, that solid foundation mentally, being able to operate under pressure. Something goes wrong, he can't break down because that's who most people look to in difficult times. There's an emotional one. More often than not, men are looked down upon if they have emotion, especially other men. Men to men, it's really harsh to be like, you're like a crybaby, you're a little girl, stuff like that you hear because it's not okay. It seems like in today's society to be emotional as a man. It's looked down upon.
Right.
But you have to be in control of your emotions is more or less what it is. It's not that men can't have emotions, it's just they need to know how to control them and how to express them, basically.
Right.
I'm just giving like you said, a short synopsis. Yep. One I fail out drastically is the spiritual providing. And I'm just not even talking about like my family. I'm just talking about for myself.
Mhm.
I go so hard, so long, so fast, day to day, 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. I'm going nonstop. There's no breaks. There's no calming down. And he believes that, you need to take some time to reflect, whether you believe in God, Buddha, nothing at all, just being alive. There's something at work that you just don't see, that there is a higher power that, you need to take time to reflect on your life, but also like kind of like regroup. I think of it like regrouping, you taking the time to reflect on yourself, and it's kind of like, collecting yourself, if you will.
Like a meditation kind of thing.
Right. I mean, just
As
spiritual meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many different varieties. I
Yeah.
mean, he pops it down in like 6 different ones. Which, I mean, that's not all there is. I mean, the world's a fast place. There's stuff we don't even know about, I'm sure. Yeah, and those are the top 4. I believe that for me personally, the 2 hardest ones for me would be spiritual and emotional. I don't know, them last 3, like I got that financial down pat. Like I feel like I've never had, like he was talking about in the book how he's had issues with, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're using credit cards to pay their bills off. And I was like, I've never really had that issue. And I'm not saying like maybe because I'm smarter with money than, I'm not saying like I'm just excellent at money. I don't know, like not shots are fired, but I saw kind of like how you were with your money from the earlier days. And I was like, yeah, I don't
why
like
are we putting quotations around earlier days? Like
earlier days?
Like it is earlier days. Like it's
I thought you couldn't see me.
No, I mean,
Lies. I could have been making fun of you the whole time.
Listen, it comes in sporadically. Okay, so I can see like it's like kind of like goes up and down. Okay, I see it sporadically.
Well, let me paint a picture for these people here. So, my brother went to college right out of high school, and this is a lot of the reason why I didn't go to college out of high school, because he didn't know what he wanted to be when he grew up, basically. So he changed majors like 5 times. Is that accurate?
No. 3. Just 3 times.
5 times. We'll go with that number.
No. I only changed majors twice.
We're still going to stick with 5 because it works better for my thing. But anyways.
This is what we call hyperbole. Okay, this is an exaggeration.
5 times, right? Got it. All right. So, but his first year of college, I feel like he did not really study, didn't learn much of anything. Wasted away his money and stuff. Had fun. Second year of college, I'm not sure. I think it was kind of the same thing. Third year of college, he kind of started to get wrapped up. I believe third year he transferred back to Casper. Is that correct?
Wow, yeah. You don't even remember anything that happened.
I'm old. I
mean, apparently so, but my goodness. No. So the first year, pretty much flunked out. Didn't like actually flunk out. I got Fs in some classes, but didn't waste I wasted money, but I wasn't quite to the point financially where there was an issue. That didn't come until my second college stint, where I was there for a year, and everything went wrong. I mean, at that point in time, yeah, it was definitely an issue in the sense of like not just financially, but also just like kind of like having an idea of where to go in life. Period. Like it wasn't even so much that I didn't know where to go. The first major was biblical studies major with an emphasis in youth ministry, because I had the mindset and the idea that I wanted to be a youth minister for high schoolers. And even to this day, like that would still be a really enjoyable position. The second one was musical theater. And again, a fantastic major. Would have loved to have done that, but it was just everything outside of that. Like I wasn't focused. I wasn't doing the things that were necessary to be able to succeed in those particular positions. And one of the biggest ones was financially, just needing to kind of just wasting money, trying to not even like I knew that I could waste it, and going back, because I even think we mentioned about it beforehand,
Mama
and
bailing you out.
yeah, mom bailing me out. I mean that happened while I was in Casper, and so that was a huge thing. And then when we finally all got back together and moved in together, when Dad called, no, we're not doing this bailing out anymore. All of a sudden, like it was like, oh, okay, like I know how to. Again, not that I was like budgeting, not that I was figuring out finances, but being able to actually just bring in money and just not spend it, like paying attention to what was going out and what was coming in, and being more mindful of that. Like overdraft charges are a huge, wonderful thing and a terrible thing altogether. So that was definitely what kind of got my butt back in line. But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, kind of one of the things. Yeah, I guess it was just. I guess I was. Yeah, no, I think I considered myself a blood sucking leech at that point in time, like a moocher, basically, because it was, I didn't really, even when we all moved to Chattanooga, like and we were all living in Chattanooga, especially at that time, I was not trying to find a like trying to save up money. I wasn't trying to preserve anything. I would even say I didn't actually start trying to save up money until literally a couple of years ago when I married my wife, because she's much more into the. I mean, I was fine financially, like as a single person, like I wasn't in any danger of going like into debt. Like there was no issue with that. It was just that I also wasn't saving up and preparing for the future, as we're like now we're working on like trying to get a house in the States, and we're working on saving up for that. And I'm working at a job now that pays me a lot more than I was making the past couple of years. And just having my wife be more, because I mean it's not even so much like I can provide financially. I'm making money, but it's also like I could easily go and be spending lots of it if it wasn't that I was working together with my wife to provide like a security net. And so like even that, like, yes, it's I feel like
So
it's my duty to bring in money, but
can I summarize and like you tell me if I'm right or wrong? So old days Nick was a social butterfly and had to be out having fun with everybody else. Now Nick finally grew up and has a wife, and he's being more practical with his money. Now I'm not saying he was horrible since Chattanooga, but Chattanooga he still went out and had fun. And after we took over Dad's mortgage, I mean it was like all hands on deck at that point. But you know, I'm just trying to pull that whole 30-minute conversation you just had with yourself back in. I'm just joking. It's hyperbole again.
no,
Summarize that, but so for me personally, like I was saying, Nick had his fun. I saw how Nick was, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to. I mean, I do, but I don't. If that makes sense. I want to have fun, but I don't want to just be throwing away money for no reason.
right.
So,
well, let's get back to the other provisions and stuff like that as far as like mental stuff, because I think everybody understands that like it does feel like men need to provide financially, but even that, like I would say, like and Mickler goes into this where it's not just the men who, like, there may actually be women out there who are actually the main breadwinners, and I've known a few families that were exactly like that, where the woman is providing financially more so than the man, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's one of his things, is like it's okay with that, but the other aspects are like mental, like you've got to be prepared for, or like you've got to be able to provide mental stability and being able to have that. Also providing he gets into the emotional side, where being emotional is a manly thing, and that if you're not being emotional, you're bottling it up, that's not a good thing. But also you need to be able to not just express those emotions, because it's not always, I would say it's not always good to express your emotions, like, meaning if I'm always like crying about like the smallest thing, like the there's gonna be, I would feel a loss of respect and a loss of like confidence from my wife because all of a sudden I'm crying about these things that are like minor, that aren't really that important. Not saying that I don't cry in front of my wife, and not saying that I don't cry about certain things, but there are a lot of things out there that, yeah, I could definitely cry about, but I'm not crying about those because like it would kind of, I would feel like it would be a lower um um
I don't think you're on the same. I think you're on the emotional aspect of things, not mental. Emotional and mental. I think you're emotionally. You know, if you're crying, that's more emotional than mental. The
right
thing
no.
is, mentally is like you don't. It's not. I don't think it's so much like you're sheer crying, but you don't crack under the pressure. You know, like you were saying, like college days, nothing was going for you. Like for me nowadays, nothing great's going for me. I mean, and that's the point. It's like, you know, do I have moments where I feel like I'm going to break down? Absolutely. Do I? No, because I don't have that. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't afford to break down, if that makes sense. Not
Mm,
money wise, but I can't afford to stop doing what I need to be doing
mm,
because, you know, there's people depending on me, my kids, parents, job, school. There's just so much I need to do that you know, that mental fortitude you have to have when life kicks you in the teeth. I mean,
mhm.
you just got to prepare. Now emotionally, yeah, like you said, like there's things like hell, I still cry about my situation these days, you know, like but that's that reflection, that's that spiritual moment too that builds you back up almost. Like it's all interconnected.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
the
would.
man provides financially, but at the same time, let's say the man doesn't provide financially, he has all these other aspects to him. It's not just money. It's not all just about money. It's everything else too tied into it.
Mhm.
And
Well,
I think you know, you were talking about crying. Like I'm not saying, I'm not trying to discredit what you're saying. I was saying like it's kind of like a fine line between all three of those last ones. You know, financially's uh, physical. You know, you're providing something financially. The other three is all like 100% interlocked together: mentality,
right.
spiritual,
Yep.
emotions. You have all three of those locked in together. You know, you need time to reflect. You
Exactly.
need time to regroup your emotions. You need to have control of your emotions, understand what your emotions are doing to you, and then you have to have the testicular fortitude to put those actions into place.
Yeah.
Or mental capacity if you don't have testicular fortitude,
Well,
whatever
no,
you
but
want to call it.
yeah, that's definitely something that I was going to say is like the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual are all like intertwined. As for like the financial,
Yeah, I
you can
got you.
kind of like
I got you.
hold it off to the side, like and that's kind of the thing. But like, I know that he really drives home that idea of like, yeah, mentally, like being grounded, being able to handle um when the stuff hits the fan, like being able to handle that, whether in good times or bad times. Emotions, not just showing emotions when necessary, but also being able to understand and talk about those emotions when necessary. And then yeah, that spiritual thing, like understanding that there is a higher power, like in our belief that God is giving us that power to be men. Now, I would say this, like I know that he was kind of like showing like when you're saying that you're beholden, or maybe he doesn't say beholden, but like basically some people would say that you're beholden to this higher power, like that could kind of like be a weakness because or like weaken your independence. I would even say it kind of does because I think you've got to like mentally understand that there is something out there that there is someone out there, something like that God out there that loves you and cares about you and wants you to be good. Like not like I'm not saying like everything is going to be financially okay, that every like your mentality is always going to be perfect, your emotions are going to be wonderful all the time, but understanding that he's not out there to kind of like ruin what your, you know, like to ruin you. He's out there to like, because other people are out there plenty of times to ruin you, and it's just being able to handle that and being able to take responsibility for that and be like, you know what, I can handle this, I can, this is a challenge, I can do this, not just because A, I'm mentally good, B, I can understand my emotions, but mainly I've got this God who's behind me that is giving me the strength to handle what's going on. That kind of idea. Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool.
Agreed.
I do like that he does bring in the spiritual, and I think that there would be definitely some people who may I mean obviously would like disagree that there's any spiritual aspects to provision or like providing that. The other thing too that I really enjoy him talking about is when he goes into these details about like where and for me personally, like this is definitely something. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, I am not providing quite to the extent that I should be. Like I'm making a good amount of money. Not saying that, but it's not like doing this podcast is something that I think is using a talent that I've got to provide stuff for others and can give value to other people as where, and I'm not saying that teaching doesn't do that, but doing institutional teaching like I am, I kind of feel like I've got to like mold myself, mold my teaching, mold my students into this particular like clay piece or this particular, I guess, for lack of a better word, mold, to push them into this mold and say, okay, this is where you need to be. Like I know that you want to be a square, but I'm going to actually turn you into a circle. Or like I know that you're a circle, you're a square, but we're actually all trying to be triangles here. And like that's kind of something that kind of bothers me about the position that I'm in. But that's also why I'm wanting to do this, and why I think that we're doing this is by being able to provide a value to people through this podcast, through discussions, and for me, not just this podcast, but also like being able to teach more like one-on-one, being able to even do some American football coaching, like providing those type of aspects for young men and even some young ladies, and giving them some kind of guidance in that, and some kind of like mentorship. So yeah.
Man, I look at it as honestly, like for me personally, I know I don't do the spiritual. I don't really take much time to. Actually, I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Like Sundays, like today, I usually just sit around at my buddy's house and just kind of like relax, if you will. You know, like kind of just take it easy. You know, not rush anywhere, not run around, not going crazy. You know, like whereas a Monday at 3 a.m. till Friday at, I would even say Saturday at like 3 p.m. It's just, I don't know. There is time for reflection, but I'm not reflecting. Like I might be like taking a break and procrastinating more than just reflecting, if that makes sense,
TikTok or Facebook or YouTube.
Well, no, like there's times where I'll go, and that's not even those three things. Like I don't know, I might be on them a little bit too much, but for me, it's also like I'll be at school and like all the other seniors are in the same room as me, and we're all just cutting up, relaxing, having a grand old time, just joking around. So kind of like I don't know, a fellowship of pain and misery, if you will. Mentally, I don't know. Well, let me just break it down. So financially, for me, how you do that, in my opinion, is like you just make a list. Honestly, what can you have, what can't you have, what can you live without, stuff like that.
Right.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I'm not even saying I'm anywhere close to being able to provide any kind of like input, because I'm still struggling with it. I think mentally I'm strong, but I think I could be better. I still let my emotions take over, and that's, like I said, it's all tied in. And then when I'm broken and downtrodden, then I want to turn to spiritual things and reflect and pray and ask for guidance. But it seems like it should be the other way around. You ask for all those
first
before it happens. And like that's where I fail 100%.
So like
Um,
one of the interesting things for me, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this is like do you what do you think about like what do you think about this idea of being I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with, and tell me what you think, is like we're always and we're in our 30s. We definitely don't have it anywhere near as bad as anybody that's like in their like teens and like 20s where
you didn't have to throw our age out there. I mean, I might be past like
yeah,
27, 26. You just cut right into the
yeah,
30s.
you know, just you can't lie to the people. But this idea that like even you and I have a difficult time like I don't know about you. For me, I constantly need some form of simulation. Like I need something going on. Like I can't really not that kind of simulation. Okay, I don't need that look. All right, I need some form of
I'm trying to understand what you
yeah,
mean,
in the
simulation.
sense of like I can't being quiet for a moment, like going into that spiritual thing where you're connecting with God and being peaceful and quiet. To me, that's a tall task. Like that's a tall order, and like
I could agree with that.
I mean, it's crazy. Like to sit there and like I can connect spiritually with. Well, I would say in China it's very difficult to connect spiritually with anybody because like there's not really there are places that you can go and meet with believers, but it's few and far between. But like one of the biggest things for me was when I was back in the States, being able to connect with other brothers and being able to connect with them on a spiritual level, but also being able to be emotional with them, and thereby also being able to understand those emotions, understand why those emotions were coming, and therefore building up the mentality of like mental like fortitude of when those emotions would come out. And so, but finding quiet time for me is just really, really difficult.
I don't think it's that's the issue. I think so. I don't know if you were going to tie that into a question for me because I didn't hear a question for me. You started like saying you were going to ask me a question and get my opinion, but I don't even know. Just went off the deep end without him.
The
But what
question
I
is
was going to
always,
say
what is
is
your opinion on that?
my opinion on that is you don't have a hard time shutting it off and finding time to reflect. What you have a hard time with is the quietness, if that makes sense. So more often than not, when people finally shut off their phone, it's usually when they're getting into bed, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. They shut off, everything shuts down when it's bedtime. So then when you try and do that in the middle of the day, what happens? You know, you get sleepy or you want to go rest or something like that. You know, you're not really reflecting. And that's your training. Like you train yourself to when you finally shut your phone off, it's time to shut down, you know?
Yeah.
That's all it is in my opinion. It's 100%. So if you don't know how to quiet your mind during the day and the only time you're used to doing it, well, of course you don't want to do that in the middle of the day. You don't want to go to sleep in the middle of the day. You got too much stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
It's shutting your brain down. You can't do that. And you know, I read somewhere, I don't know what I was looking at. It was try every single day, you know, as far as like a healthier way of living is don't be on your phone within the first hour of waking up and don't be on your phone within the last hour of going to bed.
Right.
You know, use those two times. I might have even been one of his podcasts I was listening to, but use those two different times to reflect, to plan, to look at what you did during the day, how you could have done it better, to lay out your plan. A lot of stuff that ties back into Order of Man is he provides like a not really a schedule. I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like first off, you need to plan your day the day before because you know that's kind of like part of your being mentally ready. Because if something goes wrong, you know, and it all ties in together. Like you're all going back to the first part. If something goes wrong, how do you react to that?
Yeah.
You know, and that goes back to the last chapter, chapter 3, actually, not 4, where you have a predetermined response. You know, you don't have to think about it. You know, I've also had like if you plan everything out, that's less stress on you the next day. And even so far as just to pick out your clothes,
Mm.
if you have something that's already set out, hey, I'm wearing this tomorrow, that's one less thing you have to do.
Mm-hmm. And it saves on
But
time
no,
for the next morning as well, because then you can get up and actually kind of like center yourself and meditate and think about what's coming that day to be more prepared for what like the possibility of things getting thrown at you that maybe you weren't anticipating, instead of getting up and being like, oh crap, I gotta go now, like, and like running out the door um, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes after you wake up.
yeah, like for me, like I know with my early morning routine, I could get up at 3 and get a shower and be done by like 3:30, out the door by like 3:40. But it's like, it's just rushing, like just running with my head chopped
Yeah.
off too much. Whereas if I get home and just spend an extra 15 minutes to get a shower and not be lazy the night before,
Yep.
I'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of want to point out too that, whether our viewers believe in God or whatever it is, you can't not say that there's not something at work. There's something at work behind the scenes that you have to believe in a bigger power, my belief. And it's kind of like, if there's nothing to hope for, if that makes sense, for somebody up there helping you, it's really just, how sad is it that you're fighting the world on your own? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I look at it like that too. I know people are like, well, why do you look at it like that? I mean, I feel like every day is a battle, whether you're battling to be a better man, you're battling whatever, you're trying to be the best you can be. And every day is a fight to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And every day you're going to come into conflict with people that don't want you to be that. And it's just so hard to go backwards too, not to go backwards, because like that's the whole thing. You got people that are going to drag you back down. How do you react to that? How are your emotions? How's your mentality? It's all tied together. And the financial, I feel like financially, it's for me too. Financial is so much easier than the other three. If it was just up to a man to provide money, every man could. Okay, most every man could just go to work every day and provide. And we didn't even touch on the other subject. Talking about like where one of the comments he makes is like, it is against a man. It's against a man's principle. Men, what they've been built up for years to be as a provider, it is against his very nature to get something for free.
Yeah.
And he goes into like welfare, and he goes into like, somebody cheating the system as far as like workman's comp. It is against their very nature to do something for free, but there's still people doing that out there. That's nothing, that's society accepts that almost nowadays. They look for that because, it's not the man's job to provide. The man's no longer the head of the household, stuff like that. So like, if you don't need me, then what am I doing here?
Yeah. Well,
You know?
and the other thing about that too is like, I think what I do wonder is, I wonder how much that eats away at somebody, because like I like when he was talking about that, I got to thinking, I was like I don't necessarily like I did that for a time, and even looking back on that, like when I was just mooching off the parents, looking back at that time, I'm like, man, like I could have been saving money, I could have been working towards like doing a
You
podcast.
could have been a millionaire by now.
I wouldn't go that far, but like it's more along the lines of like, why did I waste so much time? And thinking about kind of how I felt about myself, it was bad, like it was terrible. Even now, I still have some of those thoughts where, like, even though I'm providing, it's like I don't feel like I'm living quite up to the standard that I should. And sometimes it's because I'm comparing myself to other people, which I think is a horrible idea and I should never happen. But other times it's like I'm not living up to my own standards. And I think that that's like that ingrained in me, where I know that I can be a better provider and provide more. And so like I wonder, like, for those who are mooching the system, who are like cheating the system, like how, because I would even say, if mom had been allowed to continue doing the things that she was allowed to do, where she was like giving me, or like calling into the bank and saying, "Hey, can you get rid of the what is it called? The overdraft charges. Like, yeah, can
Overdraft.
you get rid of those?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, sure, we'll take care of them. Yeah, no problem." If she had been able to continue doing that, what kind of person would I be now? And I'm not like, I don't want it to be like, dad is definitely responsible for me being a better person financially than ever before. I'm not saying that women can't do that, because I also know, like, for instance, he did mention in the last chapter about like how there are single women, but like, or like even his mom to an extent would like force him to get into sports so that he had more men around him to guide him in that. And I think that and I think that there may be some women out there who can actually provide some bit of like what a man would do, but I still think that there still needs to be that idea of bringing in good men to help raise your children when needed, because otherwise we're going to end up with people who are like, oh yeah, no, I can sit down and do nothing and get money from the government, or get money from the parents, or get money from whatever. Like, yeah, you have that mentality, that I guess you can call it entitlement thought process, where like, we've been blessed to have lots of money, and some of our generation's parents have, and even us, some of the people who are our age are giving their children everything versus trying to get them to provide for themselves. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Well, let's let me see. Let me make sure we hit on everything. Uh, you were saying something earlier, I think, when we were talking before the podcast about Gary. Gary, I can't ever say his last name. Start
Vaynerchuk.
with a V. Gary V.
Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Gary V. Gary V.
Gary V. That's good.
I saw something on him where it was kind of funny story. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a TikTok. Maybe it was like just a Facebook meme or something like that, or Facebook video where he was like, he went to school and his daughter got in trouble, or somebody got in trouble for cussing one of his
Yep.
kids or
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah.
And he literally said, and I don't know how I feel about this, because I try not to cuss, for spiritual Christian reasons, but sometimes it gets away from me before I realize it. And my I just love the way he said it. He's like, I don't know. She said something, and he's like, well, I teach her not to waste time on trying to describe something to make somebody else feel better, or something to that effect. Basically, it was like,
He doesn't
I
see
need
it
to
as an
say
issue.
something.
He doesn't see it as
Yeah,
a
and
big
he
problem.
and it was like they wanted her to sugarcoat it more, if that makes sense. And like, I kind of feel that, like I have an issue with that too. Like if there's a way I need to say something, I kind of skip tact altogether and just say it. And it might take somebody else like pointing out, hey, he meant it this way, and be like, well, that's exactly what I said. But everybody's just so worried about stepping on feelings and hurting other people's feelings. It's like they don't go straight for that. And like, that was kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like, so much time is like you have to just tiptoe around things, and like it's just emotionally and mentally draining to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's my opinion. I don't know. That was just something I saw about Gary said one time.
Yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious in my opinion.
No, and I think, and because like one of the big things that he does talk about in that particular case is also the intent behind it. Like if he's out to make somebody, because it does depend on the intent behind it. Like, the way that I view Gary is, like, I view like his intent is actually trying to make people be better. Period. And so like he'll use his what he calls his Jersey boy, or Jersey swag, or Jersey lingo. Use that, which generally means dropping a load of like curse words and stuff like that. And but it's not with a harmful intent, but being mindful that his intent behind it is to provide like a mentorship. And so yeah, he doesn't really view that as a a thing. And like, yeah, telling people like it is, um, with the intent of trying to make them better. And like, I definitely, I definitely like connected it with this in the sense of like where he's talking about self awareness being being, and I plugged it in more towards the not just the financial, because he does talk about money at times, but more the emotional, like being aware of your emotions, but also being mindful of other people's emotions, understanding your emotions and understanding other people's emotions, so that when you're providing them an emotional stability, you're being able to relate to them in that particular way, instead of it just being about you and you being a lone wolf and doing your own thing. You're actually mindful of how you're feeling in situations and how other people are feeling in situations, and in the sense that you're not sugarcoating it, but you're being mindful of like how people are feeling in the moment and connecting on that level.
I feel like, from my personal experience, you're talking about being saying it, to the point, but being aware of how other people feel while you're saying it. And like me being turned off to that is more or less, my experiences. It's like I feel like if I said something and I didn't mean it the way you took it, I feel like, that's what I'm saying too. It's like that whole, it gets lost there somewhere. Some people are just like saying, "Oh, you said it mean," just so they ain't got to sit there and listen to you, if that makes sense.
Mm.
It's like, but you know me, you know how I say things. Like, this is my, this might be like because of my past wife, experiences, but it's like, you take what I say, and I could have even said it like, hell, I could have thought about it for 30 minutes before I said it. And I thought I said it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And still, anybody can take it and be like, "Oh, you said it like this. So, you're wrong for telling me that." Okay, so this is how I wanted to say it. This is how I said it. And even though I transitioned to make it more susceptible to how you could hear it, you still took it a different way than what I was meaning. So it's like, for me, that's where that whole shut off comes in. I kind of lost the whole tactfulness, where it's just like, if you're gonna sit here and take offense to how I'm saying it anyways, and that's the problem with today's society, that emotional, everybody wants to be so emotional, and it's just, it's like having control over that. Like, I did not mean it that way. That's what I'm saying. And he's saying, say it to where you make the point, but you're also aware of everybody's emotions. I kind of lost that tact too. And, I don't know. It's just my opinion on it entirely.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, yeah, I think it is because one of the things that Gary kind of like pulls at, and one of the interesting things in like his wisdom in the way that he presents this, and I'm not saying definitely listen to everything that Gary says, but the connection of where you have that you're pulling it kind of both ends. On the one hand, you're let's say you're providing the kind of mental and emotional support that you need to in order to help people around you become better, but also you're kind of not sugarcoating it so much to where you're kind of like holding in your own emotions and hiding your own emotions. Like, you're telling them like it is, but also being mindful of how they feel. And so like you're kind of pulling from different ends versus trying to be in the middle, because in the middle is kind of where the where miscommunication happens, where issues come up, and so like trying to get it to where you're on both sides. So yeah.
Well, that's all I have. I don't know if you have anything to wrap it up with. I feel like, honestly, if y'all haven't already done so, go ahead and go pick you up a book. It might help you
Yep.
rethink about your purpose in life. and hopefully we'll be back on here within a week or two, posting our next video.
Yep, we will. I would leave with just this one quote that kind of like stuck out to me. As men, our value in this world is in direct proportion to the value we provide and create for others. And so, like, keeping that in mind, that it's not just being a provider because that's the man thing to do, but it's actually like giving value to the people who are around you. So anyway, we're good.
I'm great.
We're great. All right. Thank you for listening. If you are watching, we appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening, don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a comment if you can. Leave us a review as long as it's a good review.
Subscribe.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, subscribe.
I forgot to jump in there and do another one.
Subscribe everywhere. For everybody on YouTube, click over here to watch the rest of our videos on sovereignty. Click over here to watch our most recent video on Chapter 4. I'm Nick.
I'm Andrew.
Thanks for being here.